Hi, and welcome to CityBeat, inside Palo Alto. You know, Palo Alto is a wonderful place to live and to work. But like many towns, it's facing some serious budget issues. Frank Benest, our city manager, is going to be telling us about some of those things. Plus, on the show, we'll have our regulars, Trash Busters, the History Corner, and more. Do stay with us. Rob DeGose is Recreation Supervisor for our Community Services Department, and there have been a lot of changes in that area. Rob, tell us, what are the two big changes that have happened lately?
Well, the two big changes are that residents will now have priority registration over non-residents, and that Enjoy Online, the new internet-based program registration, is available for residents and non-residents.
Well, let's go to the first one about having priority registration. That must be a major step forward. How does it work?
Well, essentially, residents will have a 1-week priority for registration for all classes and a 2-week priority for registration for summer camps. This is something that residents have wanted for some time, and we had a close look at that and implementing it this spring.
So it sounds like you're really close to your customers and you're listening to them through a variety of different means.
Yeah, we continually survey our customers and see what direction they want to see registration procedures go in. We have 4 community centers where we're constantly in communication with customers and having a dialogue about these kind of things.
And that, I understand, is what's led to the online registration for other classes. So tell us more how that all happened and what's involved.
Well, again, online registration is something that the community has wanted to see happen for quite some time, and Palo Alto is pretty, computer savvy,
yeah.
And so they want to see that happen. So we put the resources into it, and now we're happy to offer it.
Now, I understand it's really got a lot of pluses over the old system. Remember the old system where people stood in line overnight?
Yeah, summer camps are certainly so popular that we had people standing in line all night and sleeping on the pavement to register. So this is far easier. People can stay home or at the office, register for classes. Now for summer camps, I should say that the first opportunity for residents to register will not be online. It'll be through a residents-only lottery. Online registration will be available 5 days after the lottery is complete.
Okay, so registration, or people need to keep that in mind when it comes to summer camps. Now, let me ask one more thing about the depth and the breadth of Palo Alto community service programs. I mean, there's an enormous amount of stuff out there that you folks do.
There sure is. We have something for everyone, I think, and we have unique facilities. And the Art Center is one, the Junior Museum is another, and our Foothills Park is another one. And we have programs at all those centers that are really unique in the Bay Area, so they have a real regional draw.
Well, that's good news to know that we're serving a much larger public. And really, then how should people get more information?
Well, the online, Enjoy Online is the way to go. That's the whole Enjoy catalog is there. You can browse classes, you can sign up for classes online. If you don't have access to a website, you can always pick up a catalog at any of our community centers.
Super. Thanks so much, Rob.
Okay.
Scott Bradshaw is here to tell us about our new street lights in the downtown Palo Alto. Another way the city is working for you. Scott, what's the background on these street lights? How did they come about? They've been in the works for a while.
Well, back in 1997, the council directed the city staff to come up with ways to improve the safety in the downtown area, and one of the ways that we came up with was to improve the street lighting in the downtown area.
So how many lights have been put in, and how long did this process take?
Well, we've installed 74 new light fixtures in the downtown area, and it's taken quite a while. We had to go through a process of evaluating the lighting. Then once we evaluated the lighting, we had to go through an engineering and bidding process and select a contractor, and the contractor spent a considerable amount of time putting in the lights in this area.
Now, it seems to me that when you're in a downtown area, there has to be some sort of standard as to what is the required amount of lighting for public safety. So how do you decide something like that?
Well, the Illuminating Engineering Society has standards that they established for lighting, and those are the standards we based our designs on so that we met those standards for safety in this area.
So public safety was obviously the big concern here.
And that, yes, it was. Very much the big concern in this area was public safety, making sure that the public had plenty of light as they walked the streets.
And tell me, this goes back, and I know you're not this old, but back in the old days, kids used to shoot out, get their slingshots and shoot out street lights. We can't do that anymore, can we?
Well, it's pretty tough. The new street lights are pretty durable material, and it takes a very big effort to knock one of these lights out.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much, BA.
Frank Benest, Palo Alto City Manager, is here to give us an update on the budget. Frank, we know that the budget is bad. Just how bad is it?
Well, due to the recession, our revenues have significantly plummeted. Our sales tax is down about 22%. That's a major source of revenue. Our motel bed tax is down 30+%. In addition to our revenues being down, our costs are up due to our involvement in the state public employee retirement system. So our contributions for retirements are up. Our health care costs are up, like most public and private employers. And then to make matters worse, the state is proposing through the governor's budget to raid, he calls it shift, we call it a raid, to raid our local government revenues. So it's basically a perfect storm. In terms of actual dollar amounts, due to the recession, we're going to have a shortfall of about $6.7 million. That's on top of the $11.5 million shortfall we had this year that we cut the budget and we're balanced this year. So $6.7 million in terms of recessionary impacts, and then an additional $3 million once the state raids our local revenue. So the total is approximately $10 million. That's the problem we're struggling with right now.
Well, that's a pretty big number, so there must be some fairly wide, broad strategies that you've come up with how to deal with it. So what are some of those strategies?
Well, first of all, we have accumulated quite a number of vacancies in our organization, and we know we'll have some retirements because a number of baby boomer employees will be retiring in the next year or two. So we're going to be reorganizing and restructuring our work around those 40-plus vacancies. Then we're going to shed some work or defer some work that really is non-priority for us at this point. We're looking also at a mandatory furlough for employees. We're looking at cutting our health care costs. We're looking at outsourcing. So there's a number of strategies. Basically, we need to cut our operational base budget, and that will entail some service level reductions. We're basically trying to go back to where our services were in the mid-90s before the economy took off and we responded to citizen demand for more services.
So there must be a timeline for all of this in terms of gathering the data, going to the Finance Committee, going to City Council. What's the timeline?
Well, currently we have organized labor management teams in each department, so the employees closest to the work, they know where we can make some of these cuts. So they are submitting their recommendations to us. I'm going to the Finance Committee in mid-March. Then we'll start holding our budget hearings with the Council Finance Committee in April, and we'll be going to the City Council at the beginning of June.
Obviously, residents are deeply committed to the community and they want to be involved. So what's your best advice to residents about how they can get involved, stay in touch, give input?
Well, first of all, we have a budget survey. We need to determine, in terms of the goals and aspirations of our community, what are the most essential services, because we want to protect those services, and what are not so essential services. So throughout the month of March, residents can go on to the city website, click on budget survey, and take a budget survey, and they can express what services they think are most important to the community. In addition to that, our staff, myself included, we're attending just about every civic and neighborhood association meeting we can to start a dialogue with our residents about what's most important in terms of the quality of life in Palo Alto. So I would encourage residents to call my office, the city manager's office, 329-2563, and basically schedule us, and we'll be there.
Great. Thanks so much, Frank.
Thank you.
Barb Geibel and I are here at the Downtown Library, and we're going to talk about Operation Homebound, which is a fabulous service given to Palo Alto residents. Barb, how does Operation Homebound work?
Well, basically, it's a service for Palo Alto residents who are unable to come into the library for whatever reason. They have a disability, they're recovering from an illness, they might be a student who's been homeschooled and they don't have access to library materials. So we try and match them with a volunteer, someone who will come into their home on a regular basis, maybe every 6 weeks or so. They pick the materials for them. The volunteer gets this great bag that they can take the materials to the patron that they're visiting, and they take a number of things. They might take them books on tape, large type books, regular type books, books on CD, videos, DVDs, if that's what the person wishes. wishes. So it's a whole variety of things for readers to keep them in touch with the library and keep their interest going.
And I understand that even the chairs that we're sitting on here outside the downtown libraries have a background that have to do with Operation Homebound.
Yes, that's a great story. We had a librarian named Elizabeth Rohr who worked for the library for over 30 years, and she was one of the early people involved in this program. It started 30 years ago, and after she died in 1998, the Friends of the Library generously donated this bench that I'm sitting on and the chair you're sitting on, and we have a plaque with her name on it. So it's a kind of a nice way to remember Elizabeth and that tie-in with Operation Homebound that's housed at the downtown library through me.
So if I wanted to be a recipient of Operation Homebound, or if I wanted to volunteer, what would be my next step?
Well, the best thing to do would be to call me or check out our website, and that information is going to be shown on the screen after this program. So we always look for volunteers and people who need the service.
Super. Thanks so much, Barb.
Oh, thank you, PA. My pleasure.
Richard Dodds is the city's sustainability intern, but before that, he's been a painter with the city for 5 years. Richard, tell us about how paints have changed over the last 20 years or so.
Well, approximately 20 years ago, the state of California passed some legislation that required paint manufacturers to use less harmful ingredients in their solvent-based paints. And since then, the trend has been to switch from oil-based to water-based materials.
And in paints, the magic ingredient that makes it smell and causes harm is a VOC. Would you explain VOCs and perhaps run down the list of the items you have for display?
VOC stands for volatile organic compounds, and those are the elements of the paint that give off the aroma as it's drying, and as such it's producing harmful ingredients or off-gassing into the atmosphere.
Okay, and show us some of the things you have here then.
Okay, well, right here we have common everyday paint thinner, and the VOC content is 790 grams per liter, and that's relatively very high. However, you don't use very much paint thinner at one time, so the risk to harming the interior atmosphere is relatively low. Of course, you always use paint thinner with an oil-based paint, and the VOC on this particular oil-based gloss enamel is 420 grams per liter. So that the two of these together are pretty high, and that's basically what's responsible for that bad paint smell. And here we have a industrial paint. It's a two-part epoxy. The VOC content is 340 grams per liter, so it is a little bit lower than the traditional oil-based enamels. And again, you don't use this every day. This is for an industrial application. And here we have recycled paint, which is made from old paint. They filter it and clean it up and put it back onto the market. The good thing about this is that it is using old paint stock, so it's eliminating the concept of waste. However, the VOC content is relatively high, so you still have interior air quality issues with using this product. And here we have a commonly available interior water-based primer, and the VOC is relatively low on this at 141 grams per liter. And here, finally, we have common, everyday, ordinary flat wall paint. This is what most people would encounter in their home, and the VOC content is very low on this at 125.
Now, you've shown us then this range of VOC content. Can you tell me about paint storage, since obviously there are a lot of cans of paint out there, how to store it, and then of course we'll talk about how to get rid of it.
Absolutely. When the average homeowner is done with a painting project, the question always arises, what do I do with the leftover paint? The best answer would be to store it as best you can. Paint can last for several years on the shelf. If you seal the cans correctly, you can come back 10 years later and do that small touch-up project without having to buy a new can of paint to do it.
And then the disposal, that's really the key issue then, because of this being a hazardous material.
Ultimately, yes, you will have to get rid of some paint at some time, and the best way to do it would be to take the sealed cans to your local recycling center.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
I'm with Steve Steiger, and it's our favorite part of the show, which is the History Corner. Steve, we're on Old Page Mill Road, and there's some significance there because there was a Mr. Page and a mill. Tell us.
Yes, this William Page ran a series of lumber mills in the hills to the west of us and built this road to bring the lumber by wagon pulled by horses or oxen to his lumber yard in the town of Mayfield, which is where California Avenue is today in Palo Alto.
But now there's something else more significant about this old Page Mill Road. There's an artifact here. Tell us.
Well, behind us is the Frenchman's Tower, an artifact that's been in the Palo Alto area since the 1870s, and very few people know about it because it is on Old Page Mill Road, which is now a bypass of the Page Mill Road that you take out to 280.
Now, so what is so mysterious about this Frenchman's Tower?
Well, as legend has it, it was built by a man named Peter Coots, who came to this area in the 1870s from France following the losses in the Franco-Prussian War. He bought up over 1,500 acres of land in this area and built a large estate, including a nice home, some outbuildings, and barns for his cows. His cows eventually became very successful, and the butter from his cows won medals at the California State Fair.
So obviously this man was an entrepreneur even before we knew the word, but there's a little bit more about this tower, and there must be some mystery involved.
Well, there's a couple mysteries, actually. One is we didn't find out until the 1920s, some 50 years after he had left this area, that Peter Coots wasn't his name. His granddaughter came to this area to find out where her father, as a young boy, had lived, and at that time people learned that Peter Coots really wasn't the man, this mysterious Frenchman that was here. But also, the building behind us is maybe 2 miles from the rest of his estate. It's out in the middle of nowhere today. It was really out in the middle of nowhere then. We really don't know why he built it. There are lots of ideas, but what it really is, we don't know.
All right. Now, I know that you do a slideshow for kids and school children, and you do this especially in the third graders. And when they say to you, what's this all about, or you say to them, what are some of the answers they give you?
Well, children obviously have great imaginations, and after I've told them the story about how he fled France to come here, they think about it as possibly a castle to hide in when his enemies would come to visit, or maybe to store his gold and silver. Other ideas have been to part of a water irrigation system, just as a lookout. My favorite is actually that it was what the English call a folly. It's just a structure built out in the middle of nowhere just to gaze your eyes upon.
Well, what a wonderful idea. Thank you so much, Steve. It's this part of the program that's so much fun, where we get to meet the staff. And I'm with Stuart Steinhardt, and Stuart works in our tree department. But Stuart, I understand that more than that, you have this colorful story where you were Smokey the Bear at one time. Tell us.
I was Smokey the Bear many times before working here. I worked for the agriculture department, and I also worked for the forestry department here in the state, and one of my responsibilities in urban forestry was to be Smokey Bear. And once you put on that costume and you put that head on, you can't tell that Stuart's in there. You are Smokey Bear, and I love it.
Well, Stuart, so that's great, but so the transition now here to being Mr. Tree Man, people call you, you've been here 7 years now. What kind of phone calls do you get? What do people need to know when they call you?
Well, first of all, people need to know to call. In this office here, we're concerned with the street trees and the park trees mostly. That would be trees that belong to the city, and those are trees that are in what we call the planting strip, and that would be between the curb and the sidewalk. That's the planting strip. Those are definitely city trees. And in places where it's just curb, sidewalk, and front lawn, the city usually has about a 5 to 10 foot right-of-way, and trees there would also be the city's trees. So if anybody ever has a question about those trees, either if it looks like it needs to be removed, or it needs trimming, or we've had a limb break, or any reason, give me a call. My number for a good time, call 496-5953, and I'll be glad to talk. It's one of the best parts of my job, actually, is working the phones, and the most interesting, I'd say.
Spring is right around the corner, and if you're like the rest of us, you're beginning to think about your garden and how to make it as lush and beautiful as possible. This year, try using compost. Compost is a soil amendment. It helps condition your soil, and here's a couple ways it does that. First, it takes our kind of clayey soils for the area and makes them very friable and crumbly. This can allow air to get into the soil, creating air pockets and air channels. It helps the soil ecosystem as well as helping your plants so that they can form great root structures. They can really go deeper into the soil. Another thing compost does is it works as a sponge. It's like a big sponge. It absorbs water and nutrients and then slowly releases them to the plants so they can be absorbed by the plants instead of being washed away and you need to add more and more water and fertilizers. So this year, try putting some compost on your garden and see how that improves it. We have compost workshops as well as compost giveaways. If you just want the final product, go to one of our scheduled compost giveaways and you can pick them up 1 cubic yard at the landfill. Or if you want to take your own food and yard scraps and make them work for you, you can attend a compost workshop and learn how to do that. It's very easy, very natural process. Call the recycling program to enroll in our workshop and learn the dates. 496-5910. This is Wendy Hediger reminding you to reduce, reuse, recycle, and buy recycled.
I'm here today with Ernesto Sarmiento, Team Coordinator with Palo Alto Recreation. Ernesto, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about the teen programs that you're offering.
Sure. The programs that we're offering are actually divided into 2 groups. There's the middle school and the high school group. With the middle school group, we have a junior advisory board, which is 15 students from 3 different middle schools. There's JLS, Jordan, and Terman. And this group meets with me about twice a month, and we go over programs that they'd like to see offered in the teen center. Some of the things that they'd like to see offered would be the cooking classes, the arts and crafts, contests, and of course the monthly middle school dances.
Great. And you also said you had some involvement with high school students. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
The high school group is called the Teen Advisory Board, and they meet with me about once a month, and there are about 16 kids in my group from Gunn High School and Palo Alto High School, and we go over things that they'd like to see offered as well. Community service, field trips to Bear Valley, Great America, and probably our most popular one would be our high school band nights, our concerts where amateur high school bands perform in front of their peers, and they come from all across the Bay Area high schools.
Do you offer any other types of special events for middle school and high school students?
Yes, the big event that we're all working on right now is our breakdancing contest, which is April 19th. And it's a 2-on-2 breakdancing competition. We have it every year. It's our 7th year. And competitors come from all across the West Coast, San Diego, Texas, Nevada, everywhere, and they come and compete for a prize.
What is this prize, and what time and where do the students need to be in order to compete?
We actually hold the largest recreation-based breakdancing contest in probably California, and just to be known that you won that contest is the prize itself. It's at Coverly Community Center. It's in the auditorium. It's from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., and it's open to all age groups.
And how can high school students and middle school students get involved with other programs in recreation?
That's actually very easy. All you need to do is pick up an Enjoy catalog, pick a program, and come down and support.
Now available for adoption at the Palo Alto Animal Shelter. This 8-month-old neutered male rabbit is a shy little guy. He is becoming more and more comfortable being held, touched, and groomed. He's a real sweetie who deserves a good home. Both of these ladies are 8 months old and already spayed. They are very easy on the eyes, displaying an almost blue color to their coat. They would love a home together. Recognize these two from past shows? That's right, these 2 ladies are still at the shelter waiting for a home. They are very, very outgoing, friendly, and curious. They enjoy hands-on affection and would be great with children. Chuckles is also still waiting for a home. He is a neutered male who is very friendly and sure to make you smile. Chuckles loves to play with toys and is comfortable being held. Tonka is a 2-year-old neutered male Australian Shepherd that is an unbelievable canine companion. This dog is highly intelligent and easygoing. He bonds deeply with those who show him the slightest bit of understanding and compassion. Kira is a 6-month-old spayed female German Shepherd mix. She loves the company of other dogs and people of all ages. Kira has a birth defect in one of her eyes, but she has no trouble living with it. She is very loving and enjoys long tummy rubs. You can see all these animals and many more at the Palo Alto Animal Shelter, 3281 East Bayshore Road. We're open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Give us a call at 496-5971.
Thanks for watching City Beat inside Palo Alto. I'm P.A. Moore. Remember, if you have any comments about the show, be sure to send them to the email address listed at the end of the credits. See you next time.